Hey guys, it's Casey and good morning. Welcome back to my channel. It is a beautiful day outside, a beautiful early spring day here in the outback. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping and getting up to mischief, pulling all my trash out of my trash can. And last night I had the pleasure of enjoying a nice, hot, steaming cup of chamomile tea mixed with reindeer pee. And let me just tell you, it has completely and totally destroyed my leg in every conceivable manner, which is why I'm sitting on my couch as opposed to my floor, which is where I usually film the introduction to these vlogs. But I don't know, I woke up this morning, I don't know what we did, but my leg is just in agony. And also, I don't know if you can see, but my upper lip is also numb and a bit paralyzed at the moment. But Nate assures me that that is normal and that will go away as the day progresses, which I believe him because I can already feel it loosening up a little bit. But yeah, I don't know what the deal is with my leg. It is going to throw a real wrench into my plans. Anyway, you're probably wondering why exactly I would drink a cup of tea that had been mixed, that had been spiked, I guess the correct terminology would be, with reindeer pee. Well, the answer to that question is, very excitingly for a lot of you, I asked my psychiatrist if I could go on medication. Yay. But in great disappointment to all of mankind, he said no. He denied me that. He denied me the opportunity to go on anything. He doesn't think that it's going to be beneficial to my cause or his. So if you didn't know, because you've never watched my channel before, so why in the world would you know? It'd be quite creepy if you did. I have been in political exile now for 11 years, which is my second time in political exile for 11 years. And as of June 26, it has now officially been longer than the first time that I was in exile. And I have had a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings in regards to that. And this is not surprising. I warned everybody about a year in advance that if it got to June 26 and I was still here, that I was probably going to go into a bad mental spiral. And that is exactly what happened. And my thoughts have just been all over the place. We went on a road trip to the Pacific Northwest, which I now understand was the people who's in charge of me attempt at softening the blow of still being here on June 26 because the road trip happened over June 26. But no, it did not soften the blow. If anything, it made the problem even worse, the problem that I was experiencing. And that problem is that I am finding being here incredibly claustrophobic, mentally claustrophobic. And so I called my psychiatrist up a couple of days ago. And my psychiatrist, he lives in America. He lives in Massachusetts and he flies down every 3 months to see me. We've been working together for about 7 years now. And in the entirety of that 7 years, I have never called him for anything, ever, not once. Even if I was going to show up late, I didn't even call him and tell him that I was going to be late. I just left it to chance, let it be a surprise on a nice Saturday morning when he's flown halfway across the world to come and talk to me. Whatever, I never really cared, and so it must have been a real shock to his system when I called him and asked him if he thought that I needed to be on medication. Granted, I didn't take the time difference into account, and I think I called him like 4 o'clock in the morning, which, you know, obviously didn't help the situation all that much, but I explained everything about having mental claustrophobia and that I'm really struggling with the fact that at home, if I wanted, if I left my house, just dropped everything and walked out the front door and decided to get on a night train, get on it, fall asleep, in the morning I would wake up in a completely new world and in a completely new culture where everything was different. The people spoke a different language and they all looked different and the food that they ate was different and the beauty standard was different. And I wouldn't even have left the country that I was living in order to achieve that. But here I can quite literally get on a plane, fly 23 hours across 16 different time zones, and I would be in the exact same place. I would walk into that airport and I would see the same coffee chains and people would be wearing the same clothes and they'd be talking about the same news cycles and everything would be If you've watched my channel before, then you are probably well familiar with my thoughts about travel in the modern West, in that I think it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of the Amazon rainforest on a boat that's full of spiders. Everywhere is Disney World. You might as well go to Disney World. And in fact, as I've said time and time again, and I'm sure that I'll say into the future, I think that Disney adults, at very least, they're self-aware of who they are and what they're doing, which is unlike worldly world travelers who think that they're doing something grand and great when every single adventure and path has been pre-planned for them to exert the maximum amount of money. Travel is supposed to be transformative, but in the modern West, there's an inversion of that in which effort up does not equal effort down. You do so much work for such little transformation. You get on a plane and you fly 27 hours to the opposite side of the world to stand in the exact same spot that 30,000 other people have stood in that week to take the exact same photo. And for what purpose? Where, like I said, at home, if I wanted to see the world, all I would need to do is get on a train, fall asleep, and wake up in an entirely new place, doing entirely new adventures on an entirely unbeaten path. The world is supposed to have edges. It's supposed to have areas that are unknown to you or anything else that are left there to explore if that's what you want to do. But that's not true here in the modern West. Your world doesn't have any edges. It just has a gradient. And so it doesn't matter if you're in the Amazon rainforest, you may as well be at Disney World because everything bleeds into everything else at the exact same rate. There's no line to wake up on the other side of. You'd never actually arrive anywhere. You don't experience anything new. You just relocate the loop that you're already stuck in. And that was the main point that I was trying to get across to my psychiatrist, that traveling through the Pacific Northwest, the American Pacific Northwest, had really solidified that opinion in me. Because again, for the most part, it was a very unstructured journey. We were just driving around doing our own thing. And still, it felt like I was on It's a Small World at Disney World, and I didn't appreciate that. And it just completely solidified everything that I've been thinking for years at this point. And so I try to explain that to him, and the fact that it is causing me to have an overwhelming sense of existential claustrophobia about everything and everyone. And I thought that I needed to be on medication to help me deal, at least for the next 6 months. And he was all like, no, I don't think so, because you can't travel without a court order anyway. And it's not like you have any great desire to travel, so I don't understand why we're having this conversation. It's like, okay, yes, you may be correct about that. I do not have any desire to travel hereforth, but you're kind of missing the point that I'm trying to make here. It has nothing to do with the travel. It has everything to do with the world that surrounds the travel that I'm still stuck in, and it wasn't a good conversation. And you're probably wondering exactly where this has anything to do with me consuming reindeer pee tea last night, but I'm getting to that. So he said no to putting me on any medication, even though I thought that it might be a good idea to at least trial for the next few months as I get over this giant mental hump load that I'm under. But he said no because they practice something that is called benign neglect for me, in which they don't think that it's beneficial to give me any treatment whatsoever, that any treatment is going to cause me further harm than if they just leave me alone. And he said he can't actually prevent me as a doctor from prescribing myself medication or getting Ash, who's one of my best friends who is also a doctor, to prescribe it for me. But he was not going to do it himself, and it would be against his medical advice. And so I was like, you know what, fine. I will turn to the only person who can help me in this situation if you refuse to help me. And so I turned to my best friend / male nurse practitioner / platonic common law husband / pain in the butt, Nate, because some people in this world like to collect Pokemon cards, and some people like to collect Bratz dolls. Nate, if you were unaware, used to be a cultist. He doesn't have a lot of things left over from that period in his life, but one thing that he does have is that he likes to collect get hallucinogenics from around the world. He keeps them all in a giant toolbox in a storage shed somewhere that will remain unnamed. And so I turned to him and I told him that I want something. I want something that is not going to cause me to trip balls. I want something that is going to cause a state of delirium. And he said, "Don't worry, I gotcha." By the way, I have a very exciting announcement at the end of this video in regards to Parasites. So if that interests you, hang around and we will talk about it later. But yeah, so I spoke to him and I told him that I wanted something that would make me delirious but not fully, totally trip balls. That was something that was enjoyable if it was going to be a trip, not something that is going to make you run down the street, stripping off your clothes and raking out your eyeballs. So he put me on the tea. So if you don't know what the tea is, it is fly agaric mushrooms, which are those super cool looking fairy tale ones with the red caps and the white spots on top of them. They look like they just strolled out of Middle Earth, but they are extraordinarily toxic to humans to ingest. They will make you very, very sick. But someone somewhere along the lines, I don't know who the first person in the world to try this was, but the reindeers in the region where those kind of mushrooms grow, it was discovered that they could eat the mushrooms without getting sick. And if you ingested the waste product, you could get the benefits without the physical side effects. And so Nate had a bottle of the stuff and he mixed it up and we went to town. And the effects were interesting. They were very, very interesting. They were not terribly unenjoyable. So if you don't know, I have never been drunk in my entire life. I have tried the green goodness a few times. My husband was very into the green goodness. Nate is very into the green goodness. But for me, the few times that I've tried it, I find that it does absolutely nothing for me. The very first time that I tried it, I was quite excited. And my husband had told me that I would probably get very, very hungry, so I have some snacks on hand. And so I got all the snacks on planet Earth and sat in my bed with them surrounding me, waiting for it to kick in, and it just never did. And I think that that is just a genetic kind of thing because my mother had the same impact of it and that it didn't really do much for her either, which I don't know if I'm necessarily missing out on anything because I don't really like to be around people who do it in the first place. But last night was an interesting experience, that is for sure. We lost about 3 hours, during which, have you ever seen those AI slop videos on TikTok in which they're like a dark fantasy aesthetic? I'll put one here. Kind of was like that. It was an experience. Is it an experience that I need to have again? No, probably not. But it did the job for what I needed it to do last night. And so I'm very happy that I did it, even though it has completely and totally messed up my leg. But for right now, we're going to move on because my lip is starting to loosen up a little bit. Yeah, it's still a little bit numb, but it's getting there. It's workable, it's pliable. And so I have a few things that I want to do today. Nate and I, we went to the metaphysical shop yesterday. I brought some Palo Santo for the first time in my entire life because what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do the cleansing ritual from when I was growing up, which was a very, very big deal when I was young. I don't know, I just wanted to do something to feel a bit clean, to try to get this overwhelming cloud of melancholic. I don't want to say it's depression because it's not depression. It's just pure melancholy. Not very happy about where I am, which should come as a surprise to nobody. But yeah, I just want to do a little something to try to lift the mood a little bit. And so we brought everything that we need in regards to that in terms of oils, and I made some incense sticks and they smell incredible. They are so nice. But yeah, we're going to go do that. But first, I'm going to have a shower.
A few moments later.
Okay, so I did not end up having a shower because I to be frank, I don't think that my leg can support a shower today. It is so unhealthy. I am surprised that I'm standing up at all and not just bedbound at this point. And so today is just going to be a smelly girl Thursday, which is fine, which is perfect, because I thought it would be a grand opportunity to give you an update on my perfume samples. So if you didn't know, my handlers, they're not even my handlers anymore, but two of my former handlers from DARPA, they sent me a bunch of perfume samples from niche brands to sample in preparation for my birthday. So I need to try them all and tell them one or two that I want them to buy me. I don't know if they're going to buy me one each or if they're going to buy me one collectively, because they're quite expensive. Not that they're broken anyway, but you know, they are tight asses. So who knows what they're going to do. But excitingly, I have narrowed it down to exactly two. And if they're not buying me one each, I will buy the second one of whichever one they don't buy for myself as a birthday treat. So the first place winner is Zoologist Bee, which has been my favorite from day 2, not day 1, because day 1 it was Zoologist Rabbit, or Bunny, Rabbit I think. But the more I wore it, the more it was just not for me. I liked it in the bottle a lot more than I liked it on my skin, and so it is B. B is the gold winner, which is fittingly because it is a gold coloured perfume. And then in second place is, of course, Unorthodox Born Screaming. Now, I was not aware that this was going to be a favourite of mine because I kept getting it mistaken with two other perfumes from the brand that I have, which is Empty Wishing Wells and Last Birthday Cake, both of which are perfectly fine perfumes. If I had an unlimited amount of wishes in an empty wishing well, I would get those two as well, but they're just not my favourite. But I don't think I ever actually sampled this one on my skin until a few days ago, and ever since then I have been spraying it like 3 or 4 times a day. It is almost empty at this point. Like, I have maybe like 3 more sprays left of it, which makes me very sad, but that is incredible. It is an incredible cherry latex scent. Cherry latex, unbeknownst to me or anyone else I assume, is a goated scent. If you haven't smelt it, definitely get on it. And then finally, 2 others that I will buy for myself, maybe not in a rush, but I definitely will, are 2 more Zoologist perfumes, which is Zoologist Cow, which has been the scent that I have been tending to wear at night after I have a shower. I've been tending to spray that on myself because it's a very nice, subtle smell that lasts a long time. It smells like milk and green apples. It's very, very nice. And then also Zoologist Om, which smells like a damp cave and it's very melancholic, and I've been very melancholic, so I've been enjoying wearing that one as well. But that is the final run-up so far. Like, it could change. I don't think it will, though. I think B and Born Screaming are the front winners, and they're going to remain the front winners in this competition of life. And now for the part that nobody has been waiting for, the commencement of the cleansing ceremony. So this, more than almost anything else that I've ever filmed in my entire life, is really going to highlight my beef with neopaganism. Because if you've been around for a while, you know that I have a very strong one-sided vendetta against neopagans. But actually, no, I don't. It's not fair to say that I do, because I actually have nothing against pagans in general, neo or otherwise. My issue with the neopaganism community comes from the fact that I don't believe the vast majority of them are pagans, all right? I don't believe that at all. I think that they are grifters. I really, truly do think that they are grifters, and I think that they are grifters who are taking full advantage of a vulnerable population, specifically made up of women who have coming from backgrounds that are not necessarily the best backgrounds. A lot of it comes from backgrounds of very oppressive Abrahamic religions. A lot of the women who are coming towards paganism at this stage in life in 2026 are coming from those kind of backgrounds. They're looking for something to fill the void after they have left these kind of churches. They're looking for a sense of community, and they are used to following a leader. They're used to following a religious leader, a pastor, a priest, whatever it may be. And so they come into these spaces, they see these influencers who really, at the end of the day, are just grifters. They're trying to sell you things. And these grifters take these women who are in a very, again, vulnerable state, and they squeeze every last cent out of them that they're worth, selling them things that are completely and totally unnecessary, and pushing them forward as if you don't buy this, then you're going to end up doomed. The gods are going to abandon you. I don't like that. Okay, I think it's distasteful at best and predatory at worst. And no, the religion that I grew up in and neopaganism share a lot of aesthetic overlap. They look quite similar to the untrained eye. There are a lot of things that neopagans do that overlap with the kind of things that my people do. However, what we believe versus what neopagans believe are inverse of each other. And so the religion that I come from, the main mythos, if you will, is that we have the moon, sun, and stars overseen by the ultimate creator. So we are emanationist religion, which if you don't know what that is, it's essentially a framework in which everything in existence essentially flows downward. It's kind of like a pyramid scheme, if pyramid schemes were religions, which I guess religions kind of are like pyramid schemes inherently. The supreme being brings forth the highest realm of reality, which is the cosmos, so the moon, sun, and stars, who then in turn bring forth the lower forms of reality, which is planet Earth and humans and everything that exists on planet Earth. And so we are not direct children of the supreme being, or God as he is casually known, because he is a very distant God. He sets the universe in motion but delegates the actual building of the physical world and the handling of its inhabitants over to lesser divine beings, which is the sun, moon, and stars. And so we are not children of God, we are children of the sun, moon, and stars. That is who created us, not God. If anything, God is like our grandfather, and at that he's a very neglectful grandfather who doesn't even call it Christmas time, to be honest. But that is the difference between my religion and your religion, is that we do not believe that we are direct descendants of God. God did not create us in his image. There's a whole like creation story that I could get into, but I won't because that's not the point of this video. But that is the Cliff Notes version of what I was raised in. And so because the religion that I was raised in is at its core a cosmic based religion, there does tend to be a significant level of aesthetic overlap with what we do and what neo-pagans do. However, that is where the similarity ends. Modern paganism and Wiccan cleansing rituals typically operate on a energy manipulation or spiritual model. Their intent when they do these kind of rituals is to purge negative energies or expel unwanted entities, or even just to strip a home down to its most pure energetic state. When they engage smoke and salt in the rituals that they do, they are using them as a sort of sacred and magical tool in hopes of banishing baneful energies and forces from their home. But because the religion that I grew up in is a scientific-based religion, we reject the very concept of negative energy, because energy can't be negative. Energy can't be good, it can't be bad, it can't be evil, it can't be impure. Energy just simply is. It is what it is and it's nothing else. So instead of viewing things through binary, this is good and this is bad energy, we instead view the home as an accumulative vessel for energy that naturally retains the atmospheric weight of the living. So stress, grief, routine, conversations, the energy has nowhere to go, and so we have to force the energy out. And so the intent isn't to banish anything, because you can't banish energy. That's not how energy works. Energy needs to be changed. And so the intent becomes to clear the way the energy is interacting within the environment so that it doesn't crowd the future and present with the past. Does that make sense? I don't even know if that makes sense, but yeah, that's what we're doing. I put some pre-work into what I was doing. I made some incense sticks and they smell incredible, almost as good as Born Screaming. What can I say? I need to pat myself on the back because I've never made a good incense stick in my life until last night. I'm quite happy with that. The best part about being a doctor in a small town is that I get boxes like this pretty much every second week, and if it's not Favourites, then it is Ferrero Shares, and if it's not Ferrero Share, then it is Lindor, which I don't really like Lindor at all, but you know, it's the thought that counts. It's also the reason. The thought is also the reason why I'm so fat, because all I do is sit around and eat chocolate. I've got about 6 of these boxes in my cupboard at the moment, but this one got delivered to me today. If you've been watching my channel for a little while, and you might not have, it's not for me to say exactly how many of my videos you've seen in your lifetime. That's your business, it's got nothing to do with me. But if you have been watching my videos for a little while, you'll know that I have quite recently closed off, handed over all the goods to my Orca language research project. It was one of the primary reasons why we ended up going to America at the end of June, start of July. And since then, my life has been pretty empty because I have not had a research project, a solid, dedicated research project to put my energy towards. I always have a research project on the go. I do have several research projects that, again, I dip my toe into from time to time, but nothing that I really want to commit to long term and ask for funding to, you know, explore. That has now changed. I have lodged an application for funding, and against what my expectations, it has been approved. It has been approved, and so I can formally announce here in this video that my next research project will be parasitology, the research of parasites. What am I researching? I don't know. To be honest, I applied for it on a whim, and my handlers approved it. The larvae are on their way to my hospital as we speak. I have received a 2-year, $20,000 a year research grant to study this. I have no ideas of what I'm actually going to move forward in studying when they arrive. But that is my next research project. It is what I applied for on a whim. I probably shouldn't have. I don't know how passionate I am about it. At the end of the day, whatever. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and I will find something new and just tell them that it didn't work out. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? They can take the $20,000 back. I don't care. But truth is, I wasn't expecting them to actually approve this, because I actually applied for a different research grant earlier this year, which they denied. And it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because what I applied for, me and Nate had been going back and forth for about 3 weeks on the Victorian sweating sickness. I cannot remember the who and what of who thought what, but either Nate thought the sweating sickness was really hantavirus, or I thought it was, and whoever didn't think that thought it was something else. And so we had been butting heads over this. I don't even remember how we got onto the topic, but we had been butting heads about was it or wasn't it hantavirus for about 3 weeks. And then I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to apply to go and study it, because we wanted to go to England anyway, because we'd been watching the Chinese food unboxing on TikToks, where they unbox all that gross Chinese looking food with all the chips and the curry sauce, which, by the way, I love the curry sauce. The curry sauce is so underrated, and cannot find it here. I have lost my jar. Well, I didn't lose it. I used it all up, and I haven't been able to find another one. Even though Aldi keeps saying that it's British Week, it's never British Week for curry sauce, which is a great travesty in my life. But we were going to make it a 2-for-1, 2 birds for 1 stone kind of situation, where our goal was we were going to go and research Brandon brothers. So basically, if you don't know who the Brandon brothers are, they were the 2 sons of the Duke of Sussex in July 1551, and they died of the sweating sickness within an hour of each other. So I think they were like 13 and 15. So they weren't young children, they were quite robust young men, and they died within an hour of each other, and no one knew what the sweating sickness was. They were entombed quite rapidly after that because they didn't know how it spread, and so they were buried in a graveyard in Cambridgeshire, something, yes, Cambridge, pretty much immediately in lead coffins. And the good thing about lead coffins is that they don't get insects and oxygen in them, so once the oxygen has been completely used up by deterioration, there's no more oxygen. So everything that gets deteriorated, all the fluids, is called corpse liquor. Liqueur. And it remains in the lead coffin. So if we were ever going to find out what sweating sickness was, our plan was that we were going to go to England, dig up these royals who had perished quite tragically young, and test the liquid in the lead coffins. And that was my grand idea. And I applied for it, and it got denied, which shocked me at the time because they have never denied me any research project that I've applied to do, especially when I was already, so rapidly coming up to one completion. I thought that they would be right on board of it, but no, they said absolutely not. You are not grave robbing some dead children. That was that. I tried to go above their head and take a day, and he's like, well, what is sweating sickness? I'm like, that's the thing. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what sweating sickness is. We want to find out because we have bets on what it is, and they're different bets. We want to know who the winner is, and also we want Chinese food. And he's like, well, what do you think it is? I'm like, well, it's either hantavirus or it's this other thing. And he's like, well, if nobody knows what it is and history books don't know what it is, if you just dig it up, it's going to say it's hantavirus, and it's not going to answer the question anyway. So there's no point. I was like, yeah, okay, that's a fair assumption and a fair point. Anyway, and then a few weeks later, the whole hantavirus on the ship thing broke out. So, like I said, it was a blessing in disguise because it'd actually be quite embarrassing, I think, to be starting a research project around that time. It would look like you were just jumping on board the latest trend, and that is not who I am. And so instead, we will be studying parasites because, again, well, actually, you might not know this. If you were a very early viewer of my channel, you might know this, but my greatest desire in life to this day, and this is going to sound psychotic if you're unfamiliar with who I am and what I say, my greatest desire in life, if I had one wish in life, I would want to go back in time, and I would want to be a parasite behind my best friend's mother's eye. I wouldn't want to be in control of her, okay? I wouldn't want to be like those ants that take over the wasps, that take over the ant brains. That's not what I want. I just want to be sitting behind the optic nerve and visually experiencing everything that she experienced through life. And I think that would be pretty cool, but obviously that's not something that I can have. So maybe that's what inspired me. I don't think that's not going to be what I study. I'm going to have to find something to study. No CRISPR technology, because no one is more against CRISPR technology than I am, so I don't know. We'll have to figure something out. But that is a problem for next week, because I will actually be back this weekend on camera talking to you. This will be a sit-down video, and it will be what I was discussing earlier in the video, that I want to discuss the monoculture and how that affects you, to be honest. You're the target. You are the target audience, and you are the test subject in this. It will be a video essay. It will be titled "Nobody in the World Has Any Culture But Me," which is a very provocative title. I'm aware of that. But I also feel like I can back it up, and I think it's going to be a very intriguing video if I can get... I'm going to have to sit down and figure out exactly... I'm going to have to put a plan together of how exactly I want to word it, because it needs to be done sensitively. But, yeah, so I'll be back this weekend. Not tonight. I was going to tack it on to the end of this video, but I feel like it deserves its own moment, and so I'm going to give it its own moment. And also, my leg still really, really hurts. I have these chocolates. And again, just because I've been in a cloud of melancholic near depression, I don't want to say depression because it's not, but because I've just been in a really bad state of mind lately, all I've been reading is these popcorn thrillers that are super easy to read because I usually read genre literature, and this is very much not that. But I've been enjoying it. I want to finish it off and just eat my chocolate and lay down for the rest of the night. And so, alas, that is what I intend to do. So, bonjour. Ciao, not bonjour. Bonjour is hello.